Thanks for joining us on Profit with a Plan podcast. This is where you can get some great ideas to create your most profitable small business. Just so you know, financial planning isn't only for those that have a lot of money or run big companies. A workable financial plan is for us everyday small business owners and professionals that want to make great financial decisions that lead to bigger profits. So join me, Marcia Reiner, your financial business strategist, fractional CFO, and certified financial planner, each Tuesday for some smart ideas that can add more profits to your bottom line. I help ambitious business owners grow their profits fast using a unique way of growing their income and spending strategically that produce bigger profits without trying to kill yourself chasing more clients. If you're curious or you know anybody that might be curious, share my podcast or let's chat. We can create greater profits together. So I am super excited today to have my friend and fellow eWomen Network member, Arin Halicki, on today's show. Arin is a clarity catalyst for entrepreneurs, helping them build high-performance teams and increase profitability, which is what we're constantly talking about. After 12 years of corporate ladder climbing and 4 career changes and a failed startup, Arin realized that she had become a human doing. And she was stuck repeating patterns and situations that kept her small and away from her passions in life. Determined to break that cycle, Arin took a stand for being. And after deep personal work, she was able to hone in on what wasn't working in her life professionally and discovered what truly motivated and inspired her, which was working with other entrepreneurs. Arin's passion is in networking and strategy, and she believes that no one should suffer through a job and that everyone should follow their career or entrepreneurial dreams that they're willing and committed to. She can see the possibilities where others cannot and holds people accountable for their progress. Welcome, Arin. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much, Marcia. This is an amazing opportunity. I'm really, really honored to be here today. And, it's so great when you meet people that you resonate with. And I really feel like the work you're doing is so important. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. I solely agree. And I think through our eWomen Network, which I've mentioned at least a dozen times in my podcast, it's a super organization that really helps us be more and have the support to do it. And it's not only for women, men can be involved. And I'm so proud to announce that Arin is taking over the San Diego chapter as the managing director. So if you want to find a tribe of people that lift and support you and you get great business ideas, check Arin out. So it's pretty cool. So thanks for doing that as well, Arin.
Yeah,
little
absolutely.
Plug for you.
Thank you. Thank you for the plug. Yes, San Diego is really a great community for entrepreneurship. It's part of the reason that I decided to move down here because I'm originally from Northern California. Oh. And every time I would come down to visit, there's this story that I get back on the plane. I'm like, why am I leaving? Because I really like this place and I want to, try and make this home. And then what happened was I had left my corporate job at the time to go work on this startup idea, the one that you mentioned in the bio that didn't turn out as well as I wanted. But what I was doing was sourcing different resources down in this area. And I was so blown away. There are so many entrepreneurs and small businesses between Orange County and San Diego. It just blew my mind. There's so much support. There's so many interesting groups that are meeting, doing different things. And I thought wow, what a great place to be if you are looking for resources, because people down here were very generous. And Silicon Valley, I just have to say in my experience, was a little different, a little more formal, not quite as open. And I felt like if you really had something that you wanted to pursue here, you could get real touch, hands-on kind of mentorship as opposed to, I'll just give you some money and I'll come back in 6 months or something. Check how you're doing. Is there a pulse?
Right.
So that intimacy of getting to understand how somebody's business is working and that level of care, it impressed me. And I'm blown away consistently by that.
We call it sunshine tax that we pay here because the weather's so beautiful, but there's always so much more. I think the vibe here in Southern California, and not all my listeners are in Southern California, but I think the vibe here in Southern California, it's just the right thing for incubation and profitability and growth potential. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that was part of why Silicon Valley did not appeal to me in the end, was that from an expansiveness space, I think that it has a lot of lore around it. My experience has been that people think like, this is where you have to be if you're an entrepreneur. And really the message at the end of the day is you don't have to be anywhere. I was just talking to somebody the other day who started his startup in Indiana, and they don't really have the same kind of, resources that you would, like when you do a Google search on something, you might think, oh, I need this, I need that. And it's like, well, if I'm in Indiana and I don't have that, what do I do? But it's really about creating something and creating a possibility for yourself and being willing to ask questions or, go ask somebody on an email like, hey, I saw your awesome book or your website or your video or whatever, and connect with people, because it really is about the connection at the end of the day. And if you're connected to yourself and what you need, then that translates into your business and ultimately profit. Right?
Exactly. And especially with the online world right now, I mean, you don't have to be anywhere. I think for me, my most ideal, picture of my world would be, having that touch, but having the connection. I can do it from a mountaintop. I can do it from a beach. I can do it from my front room. I can do it from my business club. I can do it from anywhere. And you don't have to be, right in that one spot. So that's a great point. But I think that the having that clarity and that value really helps direct what you're doing and how you do it. So something, let me ask you, something that really got me was in your introduction. You pushed a sensitive button for me that really stuck, and it was about the unfulfilling job that we have, and how you can get out of that and really make your life so much more impactful for yourself and your family, as well as the business and the clients that you serve. And I think most of our listeners, at one way, shape, or form, are business owners, and they've left the corporate world to do the same thing as well. So tell me how you can encourage that and get these small business owners really motivated to do what it is that they love to do, instead of doing something that someone tells you to do in a job.
Yeah. Well, for me, my experience was really a long time coming. I think from an early age, I had been pegged as like an achiever. And a lot of that had to do with my family environment and kind of needing to like preoccupy myself in getting things done for myself. So like the homework was always done. I was really, persistent about attending sports practice. Like if something could be done, somebody could give me some kind of construct to operate in. I'm like, I'm going to get it done, because I don't want people to worry about me because they have other things to worry about, which, that's a whole nother story. But what it got for me was this pattern of like, if there's a construct or something somebody tells me I should do, I'm going to do it because that seems like it feels right and safe. Which is totally counter, by the way, to what happens in real entrepreneur work, because you're really going into the ambiguous and the unknown. And that was part of the trigger for me when I finally got there to make the stand of, I don't want to be in the job. I want to go try something more creative and expansive for myself. I have this passion, that I want to solve a problem. And then I was like, oh my God, like it's all on me, right? And there wasn't any more direction in the same way, not even bumper rails in some case. It was like not the school of hard knocks, but people would be like hazing, like, well, you can't do this unless you, do X, Y, Z and kind of prove yourself to me. And I was thinking to myself, I have a whole resume of proof that I have, increasing roles of responsibility, all this stuff. Like people love me. I'm a networking master. Like, why isn't this good enough? But it really, what I did was, coming up, I did the sports, I did the school, I was always honors, kind of like high achiever, right? Type A to the T.
I can't tell at all.
Not at all. And so it was really interesting because I got to college, and this was the first time that I really do believe in intuition, in the way that like you can feel it. You can actually feel it in your body. And I would sit in psychology class in the first couple of years of college. You take kind of general education, right? So I would sit in those classes and be just so inspired by the conversations and the topics that were coming up. But in my mind, I kept thinking, well, I need the business degree to prove my validity and worth in the business world. And I'm going to make money. And that's kind of the path, right? And I'm going to be the CEO someday. And then like later on, I determined, do I really want all that responsibility on me? And,
careful what you ask for.
Yeah, because like once you start going up and up and up in the chain of these bigger organizations, you're responsible for so much more than just your own actions. It's like you're accounting for the fact that you're trusting, the organization below you. But as a naive college kid, I'm like, oh, I'm chasing the money and this is what I'm doing. And I'm really good at achieving things. And I got good grades and graduate. And I couldn't find a job initially out. I was in Denver at the time. So I came back to California and very shortly thereafter found a job. It was just a job because I thought I needed a job to make money. Like I wasn't thinking outside of like, do I really like what I'm going to be doing? And who I was when I showed up there. So I stayed at that job. My first one was at an aerospace defense company, huge. And I went through their leadership track, which every year and a half, you got a new job. So it was like I got to see all these different sides of the business, different types of leadership, different types of organizations working with different types of functions. I got to learn how to communicate with engineers, which was a whole adventure in and of itself. But like to be honest with you, they're awesome. And that's when I started realizing that I had this little superpower of like I could get in and make a connection with somebody and get what I needed out of it. But I never thought like, oh, go do sales or go do entrepreneurship. Like I just kept thinking, well, I'm just going to do what people tell me to do. So I kept going and eventually got to a point where they sponsored my MBA, which thankfully, like I'm so grateful for. I didn't have to drop a dime on it. But out of that experience, I got to see so many other people in different industries that I thought like, there's money on the table here. What if there's something more for me? So I got a little curious and actually left that job. I'd been there for like 7 years. It's the longest job I've ever had in terms of like one company. And I started getting curious. And then it's like this curiosity is kind of shortened all the times that I've spent at jobs since then. But I went into strategy consulting, like business process consulting, and then I did a little stint in business development. And that's really where the straw broke the camel's back. Like I actually started to get so physically uncomfortable, I actually got sick. Like I started having some sickness issues with like different things in my body that I was like, this is really strange. But it was because I knew in a body intuition sense, I wasn't where I was supposed to be. But my mind was like, you've got to finish this. You're committed. You've got to stay in this job. Of course, you're going to make it work. And I'll never forget it. I was working in business development. They had put me out to be an account executive at a very high profile Silicon Valley company. It's like the kind of place that everybody wants to work, except that I was sitting there like crying myself to and from work on the commute and like miserable at my desk. And my boss was saying terrible things to me, like, you're too sensitive. You can't handle this, blah, blah, blah. And I basically gave them the leg up on the fact that this big contract wasn't going to be renewed. And they didn't believe me. And then when the client actually said it to their face, they were like, why didn't anybody tell us? And I was like, oh, that's it. Like, that's actually where the balloon burst for me. And I started realizing that, like, I actually had all this value that wasn't truly being appreciated. But I didn't think about it in terms of, like, I didn't think about it how I was advocating for myself. I kept thinking about it kind of like these external factors. And at the time, my sister and I were watching this show. You may remember it. This is kind of a little off topic, but it's called Catfish, and it's about how in the online dating, it's such a like social thing, but people hide behind this like digital bulletproof vest of like, I'm going to pretend to be this person and get you to like me for whatever reasons. And there's a lot of psychological weird reasons for this. But my sister and I were totally fascinated, and I had been on and offline dating for many years. And I thought I can help in this space. So I started an app idea and concept that I brought all the way to basically, I could have developed it if I wanted to, but the competition was kind of coming into the space. And the idea was, let's record a video, a 10-second video in the app. Like it can't be, I pulled something from Instagram or some other thing. You have to do it in the app and just say like, hi, my name's Arin. Nice to meet you. And you're going to get way more out of that than any picture I choose to show you. Even if it's at like a crazy Instagram angle or something funny, at least you're going to have a better sense of the person, and you're not going to have like a David Beckham scenario where it's like you look really good, but then you're like, hi, my voice is really high, and it doesn't match, right? Right. And that's very judgmental of me to say, but like, sorry, David Beckham. The idea was so embedded in my experience of dating that I thought like, I'm passionate about this. But here was my kind of first misstep in entrepreneurship. I didn't really have much momentum in the business or feedback for proof of concept. And so I actually left the job behind, the stable job. And I like went into this without really a lot underneath me. And I didn't have a sense of needing that worth and external validation kind of like to not be as important as it was. So what happened was I'm like chugging along for about a year and a half. It came to a point where I was thinking like, am I even doing the right thing? Am I still passionate about this business? Because other technologies were starting to use, or apps were starting to use video. And I thought to myself, this is so bizarre. Like I'm getting that feeling again. Like, I don't think this is right. Or like, I didn't understand at the time. And it was very confusing for me. So I ended up dissolving the business. And funny enough, I had created like a C Corp and all this stuff. I was like, I'm getting investment and like, it's amazing, right? But here's the thing. Like, I was so in the, I'm going to do what other people tell me to do, not what I want to do. And I felt like, hold on one second, stop. My cat likes to open doors, and there's this like little cabinet door here, and he's like making a lot of noise.
No, that's okay. I didn't hear it. And you know what? It just tells me that you're human. So
yeah, exactly.
There's a life around you.
I'm a cat mom. So it's interesting because I just got to this point where I was feeling that feeling again, like something, why am I not understanding something? I'm missing something here. And I had started way too late in the game on getting, market feedback. At the time, I didn't really have a stable job, right? Because I'm just doing this entrepreneurial stuff, like amorphous.
Right. And I can do anything kind of stuff, right? Yeah.
And so what I didn't understand at that time, and I'll kind of get a little woo here, is that what I'm realizing now is that's a lot of like feminine creative energy. We all have a balance of this within every single being. There is a balance of these types of energies. We call them feminine, masculine, but like this particular energy of creativity is very ambiguous and mysterious. And for somebody with my experience up until that point, it was very hard for me to trust in that held the key to my success, as like being able to receive feedback and do things, as opposed to creating structures and being really analytical about my journey, right? As an entrepreneur, and like what somebody else needs to tell me instead of like how I felt and my own basis in what was going on. And so I decided, I'm going to get rid of this. Like, this is over. The time is done. Because, as it turns out, the cost to acquire a customer is really high. It's like $200 to $300 a person to get them on a dating app. And then if you think about that, Sarah, nobody's usually paying that much for their memberships or other things. So from an investment perspective, people were like, I'm not going to give you money because you don't have like the next Tinder. But the chances of you being the next Tinder are small. But here's the thing. If you let that get in the way of something that you have a burning passion for, then you will not succeed as an entrepreneur. Like, ultimately, yes, there are business decisions, maybe litigation or something else comes up. Like, there are reasons why you might like stop being an entrepreneur in a particular idea. But what I learned out of that was that I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to go back to corporate, but I can't continue with this. So what do I do? Right? Remember you said about the doing in my intro. This is where it started to break for me. And I started understanding that there was something missing about my beingness. So I became a software engineer, totally crazy, like software developer, because I thought if I couldn't get somebody to develop my prototype, I'll do it for myself. Right? Hilarious.
You know what? I'm getting a theme here, and this is something that just gave me the big aha, and it started to come in the last conversation. You talk about how you are very in all of the jobs where you're told to do something, and you feel like you have to do it because that's what it is. That's a very masculine energy. It's all the tech, it's all the software, it's all the implementation, it's all the hard stuff that everybody says. And then you talk about the passion of creating and having this feminine energy. And this is my big aha. And I kind of still hear it in your voice that that's maybe not the right or the good way, where the other way is the successful, what you should be doing. So I feel like you have this battle going on internally as to what should you be masculine or should you be feminine? And I'm a big fan of the same thing. And that's why we resonated so nicely, is that you got to find a way to be both.
Right. And so I'm in my story right now. And I have to say that like now, I guess this is like almost 3 years later, I do finally have a sense of what it feels like to kind of be in this inner, in between. And my best advice to somebody that is stepping into business and maybe like either experiencing some friction or something where they're either something's not working the way they expected, or they're uncomfortable with a certain situation, not sure how to proceed, that I would invite them to consider that we are creating our own reality. So there is something in us that is propelling that situation forward. And if we can have an awareness of how we are in that certain situation, or what might be, coming up, validation, I'm trying to think of the way to word this so that it's digestible. The idea of needing to be right, self-righteousness, that can manifest as perfectionism. And that was kind of a big aha for me recently, that I have been trying to go through life up until a couple of years ago, really being perfect and not standing out. And that is totally counter to being in a creative entrepreneurial space, because you need to fall forward into the possibility, which is a big risk. There's no structure there per se that's super well defined. Every business is a little different than the next. I always loved it when people would say, we'd be in leadership meetings when I was younger in my career. People would be like, well, how do I get to be like you? How do I become a manager or whatever? Well, let's not even, go there. That managing and leading is two different things, right? But I always hated that question, because instinctively I'm there's not one path. People aren't going to just wake up one morning and be like, well, if I do X, Y, Z, it's going to happen for a mechanism or a technology to help you do something. But I will say with certainty that if you wake up and you are committed and intentional about what you're working towards, kind of like setting a North Star for yourself, you will make amazing things happen. It may not look exactly like what you may have imagined. And I think that vision board is a great example of this. A lot of people set their intentions and they put the vision board out there. But those are magazine pictures, or most of the time it's not pictures of yourself and actual things in your life. It's a representation. Same thing. When you set a vision for your business, it's a representation of a feeling, of an experience that you are creating. And if we can keep in that kind of a sense of being, and less focus on the exact how it's going to be, the doing part of things, you actually open up a lot more space for that stuff to come in, whether it's feedback or and I'm talking about market feedback. What if you've been chugging along for, 5 years, you have this great brand, or so you think, and then somebody comes in and basically tells you that your branding is the reason that you're not getting customers, but you've been so in love with it for 5 years. Are you really open to changing it? I can't answer that for everybody, but that would be a situation of when you get to certain precipices in your business, the decision points, uncomfortable situations, whatever you want to call them, you are at a place where you can choose to be a certain way and then do something. Because it's really more about how you're being in any given moment than what you're doing. The doing follows the being. If you are intentional, most people think if I do this job, then I'll have money and I'll be happy, right?
Wrong.
That's tricky. That is so tricky, because really it's, if I'm being intentional, then I can do the thing that I want to do and I will have the outcome that I want. So,
which will make you happy.
Which will either make me happy, get me money, whatever the
right.
thing is that you're aiming for. And so when it comes to profitability, especially, and this is going to be probably a little esoteric, maybe, it has far less to do with the actual money as it does with how enrolling are you with the people in your business and your clients. How willing are you to receive gracefully and in integrity feedback and grow? If you're willing to grow and there's space, then the money can come in. And I feel like that is all grounded in a sense of worth. If you believe that you're worthy of it, that's a huge part. And then the other part would be if you are actually aware of yourself, your being in business. I almost wanted to call, side note, I almost wanted to call my podcast Being in Business. And I was like, no, this is too much of like a weird metaphor or something. But I'm so passionate about it that a lot more of people are opening up to this idea that it's less about like the exact mechanisms. Mm-hmm. And it's more about like who you are in any given situation, because people remember that. They're not going to remember your spreadsheet or your PowerPoint presentation. I mean, they might, but really they're going to remember the sense of you in business.
And I agree. I think that we all have to have that and that clarity that says, I'm here to serve, or I'm here to do, or my product does something for them. And when you put that out there with that intention that, you know, I'm here, or this thing is here to serve them, then they'll feel that and they'll have that be more open. And you're right. It's not about the spreadsheets and, you know, if I cut this dollar here, then I'm going to be more profitable there. It's about having and being in the right situation and then doing the service that they need. So it could take your being and doing and turn it around a little bit. But I love it. It's so important because they will remember. They make connections with those people they like, know, and trust. And then that's when they'll buy from them. But I think that's where you have to start, right? You have to have that intention.
Perfect. What you just said is so perfect about the blend, because you need both. You need a being and a doing, because if you're just being, then it's like, what do they say? Like in the law of attraction, like it implies action, you know,
yes.
Because there's action in attraction, right? So there is some mechanism or doing in the achievement of things, but it really starts with the being. And so I have to say that through all of my experience, all the story leading up to this, what I was ignoring and what I was kind of bypassing was this sense of beingness in business. And so for what it's worth, I would recommend, if people are in a place where they don't know or they are stuck, getting feedback, especially like unbiased feedback, is probably one of the best ways. Like most of the times we always think of like what's easiest for us to do. Like if somebody asked you, go ask like 10 people how effective my presentation was. They're going to go to people probably that they know versus not know to get that. But it would be like a challenge and a stretch for somebody to go and ask like somebody who they didn't know, because honestly, whatever they say, you're assuming into the fact that they wouldn't give you good feedback already, maybe, you know. But what if there was a possibility that they held the key to like, you know, some amazing breakthrough in your business? You know, there's so much to be said for getting feedback in those moments. And that's why working with somebody like a coach and or a mentor is so critical as an entrepreneur. Like I fall into the trap sometimes of like, I can do this. I've got this. I've got me, you know, and this lone wolf thing is like really, really, it's like, if you want to push money away, there's nothing faster than that sometimes.
I agree. You know, we're not, and I've said this a half a dozen or a dozen times, that you're not an island. You have to have support. And even when you're testing your solution, you gave me some good ahas here, that you have to go out and try these things and get honest feedback from people that you don't know, or maybe wouldn't necessarily give you what you think oh yeah, girl, I got you kind of stuff. You'd want I think you'd want to test it on your potential clients and get the feedback from them, because like you said, we created something because we thought it was good, but how do we know if it's the right thing that they're looking for? And you have to be open for that to get that feedback. But I think that it's so important that you test, and it's so important that you talk to people and that you try things and then be open to accept the feedback, not as an attack, but as a positive feedback that you're going to use and say, oh, thank you. I'm glad you didn't like my logo, or I'm glad you're telling me you thought that my red colors turned you off, that, you know, or the way I said something, you tuned me out, you know, because it wasn't talking to you. These kind of things are essential for business owners. And because we're business owners, we have to have that flexibility to be able to be more. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm so in tune with that. And it really, it was fascinating. Towards the end of my first app idea, I was driving a Lyft car. That was my source of income. I think I was starting the story earlier and I forgot to finish it, but I was driving a Lyft car to get income. And it was a perfect mechanism to get feedback, not only get feedback, but be paid effectively to get your market feedback, because most people assume that that's not your only job. So it's a super easy entry point. It's so easy because you're just talking with somebody. You're talking with your passenger. Now, granted,
they're trapped. Yeah, they're trapped. You can have a conversation.
Captive audience, right?
Yes.
I got some of the best feedback in that. I mean, if you want to know some interesting feedback, I'll share that I had one guy who was like, yeah, I met my spouse and we were in the chat rooms. Like, this was like back in the 90s. They had like instant messenger or whatever. I used it. I can't use AOL. And you'd be like, messaging with people. And then there were like right. chat rooms that were online that you would have like a common interest, but you didn't necessarily see the person. You just got to know them on your common interest level. And I had like hand over fist people telling me about this as like, it wasn't as important. Everybody was telling me empirically that it wasn't as important what somebody looked like, that they actually resonated with the person. And I was like, this is fascinating, because if you think about the dating world right now, a lot of it is very like, superficial, right? Yeah. So I thought it was interesting. I tried to use some gamification in my app concept of like, you would get to know the person a little slowly. And then the reveal was kind of like the pay to play, where like you had tokens or coins or whatever. But it was interesting, because I never really thought of it before, but that was a little outside the box. Because most people think like, I need to, like you were saying, like, I need to get my target market. I need to, and yes, totally important that some level of your avatar or target market should have feedback in the process. But it's like, we shouldn't discount some other things, because there's like early adopters, and then there's kind of like the people that kind of swarm in at the end. I would say, I'm just going to continue using dating since I know so much knowledge about that industry and my own experience.
Well, wait a minute, but that's a perfect correlation to business owners trying to get clients. You're trying to date that client until the client says that, oh yeah, I want to go out on a date with you, or I want to marry you, right? Buy your product. This is actually a perfect correlation. I love it. Please continue. Yeah.
And I mean, I'll even give I'll go like super personal right now. So this is a total reveal. So I currently I'm single. And so I'm in this world right now, and I have not been all that seriously in this world for a long time. After my experience trying to build one of these things, I was very turned off to the idea of like, oh my God, I have to use one again. Are you freaking kidding me? So anyway, I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And this happened that I really felt like like this would be like you're in business. You're like, I really feel like I got this person, this is going to be my client. So I had somebody that I was talking with that we met up quite a few times now. And suddenly it just kind of like dropped off and ghosting, whatever, it doesn't matter. But like, I am of a leadership style that like, if it's meant to be, it's really up to me to do something about something. And it doesn't have to be an affront. It could just be like, hey, I was thinking about you. What's up? And anyways, it turned into some feedback for me that I wasn't expecting. And I was like, oh. And then I told my friend, because this is what girls do, is we talk about these things, right? And I was like, what do I say to this? Because I feel like there's an opportunity space for me. And she's like, you get to ask for feedback in this situation. And I was like, oh my God, I get to ask for feedback. And it's very uncomfortable for me because I have no idea. I mean, this person could say like, I don't know. I mean, like, your toes are ugly, or I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like it could be anything that comes back. But here's the thing is that space has so much potential for what I'm going to do next. And like, I feel like as a business owner, if we're not willing to kind of like go there to these uncomfortable spaces, then we miss this whole opportunity for insight and growth sometimes that could be very valuable. But being in that space, I don't want to sell it like it's easy. It's not easy. And this is a practice. Like, I think we talked about it, that like the entrepreneurial skill set is actually a skill set. It's like, it's something that you build and grow. It's not like you just like I say, I'm going to do a triathlon and I've never swam and I've never rode a bike, or, maybe I ran a little bit, but it's kind of like I have some knowledge, but I don't have like the whole picture. And it takes you training. You commit to your training. And sometimes you fall off your bike, and sometimes you don't make it the full 800 yards in the lap swimming or whatever, but you get closer. And if you're willing and if you're committed and resilient, you have a shot. And so that is so true in entrepreneurial journeys where we sometimes get to these areas where it's like a little uncomfortable or maybe a lot uncomfortable, and we will stop. But if we push a little farther, I mean, I'm saying this within reason, obviously, like, if we push a little farther, there might be something there that we can either keep going or pivot, God forbid that we actually change something, like, right?
Right. Gosh, this is amazing, Arin. This kind of, I mean, I'm so excited about taking that feedback and really implementing it in my business, because again, we do live in a vacuum. We do live in our own little worlds. And, that feedback is the piece that can help you shift and grow and profit more if you find out what it is that you're dating, your potential client really truly wants, and how you're presenting can match that. And, that's the big aha. I didn't think we were going to talk so much about feedback today, but I was thinking, man, that is really point on what business owners need to do. Ask those questions, especially for the ones that don't buy. Do you mind if I survey you with a couple of questions? What was it that made you not want to buy? And please be honest. Was it my perfume? Was the way I said to you? Was it that you don't have the money, or it wasn't the right time? There's always a reason. And if you can get that honest, sometimes brutal feedback, it will help you improve and go and to get you to the next level. So I love this. Yeah. This is so valuable.
Yeah. And I feel like that is the key, is that feedback is feedback. I feel like a lot of us treat some things as like neutral because we may have like an attachment to, a certain way of being or the way that something should be. I hate the should, right? Shoulding all over the place. And it's so interesting to me because I love business strategy and I could talk about it for hours, but I think it's way more fun to get into kind of like the softer side of the business stuff as opposed to like the glamour of the hard product or, the actual experience sometimes of being with your client can give you so much information. And the more connected you are to your clients and or whoever you are engaging with, it doesn't have to be a client. If you're connected with them and you're authentic, people will be vulnerable and authentic with you. It's like a mirror effect of that. And that ultimately is, like you said somewhere a couple comments ago about people buy because they know, trust, like you. And that is the critical part. If they're disconnected from you, if they don't connect with you, then the money chain is broken.
It is. And then that feedback piece, I think we all have fear. Nobody wants to be rejected, right? No, that's why salespeople or sales roles are so, for a certain type of person, even though we're always selling ourselves constantly in our life, but nobody wants to have that rejection. So I think asking for that feedback, someone's always going to go, well, they didn't like me. I don't want to hear it. Or worse, you put out there and you're like, yeah, I want your feedback. And then all you get back is positive. You don't want it to be an abusive situation, but you don't want it to be all hearts and flowers. You need honest. And I think that authenticity and asking those questions, I would love to maybe take this conversation in the future and develop some sort of strategy or tools, or here's the best 5 questions, or here's the best way that any business owner can ask their current clients and the ones that got away how to give them that honest feedback as to why they chose to work with you, or more importantly, why they chose not to work with you for whatever reason.
Yeah. I think a big piece of it, and we can talk about it later, because I know that we're having a lot of fun right now. I imagine we're probably overtime, but
we're pushing the limit, but we're good.
But I feel like it's the safety aspect of things, like the safety of somebody in any given situation is going to allow them to truly be authentic. And so if you feel safe with yourself, or you are, that masks as confidence sometimes, like with sales, or if you are feeling like you are safe, like you're heard by whoever's asking the question. So it's about like creating a place and a safe place for that exchange. And I think about it in terms of safety.
I love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Arin. This has been an amazing conversation, and I would love to put part 2 together and talk about that feedback a little bit more. Is there anything else you'd like to talk with our audience about today?
Yeah, well, I want to put it out there. If any of this resonated with you and you'd like to maybe ask me some more in-depth questions, I would like to be able to connect with you. And so my contact information is below. If you'd like to book a slot on my calendar, I'd love to have I'll put a 30-minute slot on there. We can just chat about business and just kind of get to know where you're at, see if there might be a little nugget where I can help you either get past a challenge or see it in a new way. This is what I love to do. I'm so passionate about helping people see these possibilities and really, taking their business to the next level. So I'd love to connect with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That is so valuable. I know that, I tried to book a question time with an attorney, and it was $7.50 a minute. So I mean, getting a complimentary or a free session to brainstorm and come out, these are invaluable. So please, everybody, take her up on that offer. Run an idea or two by her. Go a little deeper in the conversation. It'll be well worth your time. So thanks again, Arin. Yeah. So thanks for listening today. I hope you found an idea or two to put into your business that will help you make more money, get control over that money, and become more profitable. If you would like to know how to increase your profit specifically in your business, let's chat. My contact information as well will be in the podcast description. So one more thing, I'm super excited to talk about my new book. It's called Big Profit Secrets Exposed. It's on Amazon. There'll be a link here in the podcast to get your copy. I'm on a speaking tour. I'll be in Denver next week. Really super excited about that. And if you know of anybody that I might be able to share my wisdom with, and you're in a group, I would love an introduction. Also, if you want podcast notes or any connections on this podcast, hit me up. And then we would love to hear your questions, feedback, ideas for future shows. Comment on this podcast and ask some questions. We'd love to answer them, and Arin will be around to answer those as well. You can always reach me at Marcia at Bella Financial Group. So you can catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players, and looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. Until then, make your plans and profit with them. Hey, thanks, Arin. I really appreciate you today.
Absolutely.